What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you, this time through Yahoo. This is a 12-team half-point PPR mock, and we've got that final 12th overall pick, so it should be pretty interesting. And before this thing kicks off, one final reminder for you guys. Go ahead, take advantage of our free 2020 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide giveaway while you still can. All the information is in the description, but basically all you guys have to do is two simple things. First and foremost, go ahead, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Then go ahead, follow us on Twitter at AllDayPigskin. Send us a message, and then we'll go ahead and send you the free draft guide. Again, all this information is in the description, but the draft guide includes everything from top 150 overall player rankings in standard and PPR formats, individual player tiers, projections, bios, along with general fantasy advice. And take advantage of this because, again, we are getting into the crunch time period of fantasy drafts, so get a leg up on your competition. But with that being said, let's go ahead and look at the draft results here and see what has taken place so far. And you can go ahead and see Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, the expected 1-2 selections, followed by Zeke, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, and Dalvin Cook. Now, I'd go ahead and put Dalvin Cook in that number 5 spot ahead of a Derrick Henry. Michael Thomas here goes at 7th overall. And for what it's worth, Michael Thomas, there's still some great running backs on the board, folks. And I realize Thomas is coming off of a record-setting season, but maybe this year more so than any other, you got to go running back heavy, especially in a league that has 12 individuals or more, because afterwards there is a big drop-off in talent. You don't want to go ahead and reach on the next tier of running backs right when you can go ahead and address another, very important position like a wide receiver, where value at that point in time during the draft is optimal. And you see this here because this has been a run on the running backs, but I still believe we're going to be able to get pretty decent back-to-back choices without a major fall off in talent. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Our first choice is going to be pretty easy. We're going with Joe Mixon, then Miles Sanders, or potentially an Austin Eckler. And honestly, right now, I see some situations in Philadelphia with all those injuries on the offensive line that have me worried about Miles Sanders. And along with his injury, lower body injury, he should be good by week 1. But I'm just going to go ahead and get a guy in Austin Eckler that I really like. I realize this is a half-point PPR format, so Eckler not quite as valuable, but he's the prime running back there for the Chargers. No more Melvin Gordon, obviously. He should go ahead and make up for the loss of Phillip Rivers by the pure volume that he will go ahead and see. And again, looking at these draft results, there's probably 1 or 2 more names that you can consider at the position running back when that's concerned. Those names are still there in a Miles Sanders and in Aaron Jones. But right now, you're seeing a little bit of a run on the other positions. So Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce, Miles Sanders finally goes off the board. And I do think that is, people having a pulse on the situation with what's happened in Philadelphia. Because only a couple of days ago, maybe a week ago, Miles Sanders, man, the hype was real for him. And I've seen him go as high as, 5th overall, 6th overall, which I think is extremely high. And we've got a pretty intriguing selection here. Chris Carson, 17th overall. And sure, he might be that next best available running back in the next group of tiered rushers, but Aaron Jones is still available. James Conner is still available. So to me, that's a bit of a questionable pick, especially when there's still some other overall talent, especially at the wide receiver position, Julio Jones and DeAndre Hopkins. James Conner here, I think people are going to be, thrown off by this a little bit, having him ranked essentially 23rd overall via Yahoo's rankings. And I went ahead and pointed this out when a couple days ago we put out a video kind of exposing the player ranking differences from the top 3 platforms. And Connor was a guy that we highlighted in terms of here, especially on Yahoo. Man, his ranking has truly skyrocketed. Now, that's with good reason, because at the start of, fantasy football mock draft season back in March and April, Connor was criminally underrated as a 6th round selection. Steadily, his ADP has gone up, and now, especially with drafts taking place this week and next, it's continued to skyrocket. So you're going to see James Conner as a 3rd round selection, maybe even end of the 2nd round type of situation. And here after, let's go ahead and quickly break down this 2nd round in terms of the players that have been selected. So obviously we went with Austin Eckler, then you see Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce. To me, a little too early to take a tight end here with Travis Kelce. Miles Sanders, Chris Carson. Again, too early for Chris Carson. Tyreek Hill, Chris Godwin. Incredible value for Julio Jones at this point in time in a 12-team league. He's my 2nd overall wide receiver across all formats. I love the Atlanta offense. Getting him 20th overall is great value. Aaron Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, also I believe good value. George Kittle. And then to round out that 2nd round, you see Patrick Mahomes go. And then what did I tell you guys? James Conner will be a late 2nd round pick or an early 3rd round selection. And that's exactly what happens here at the turn to kick off the 3rd round. You see James Conner. So the fact that we got 2 pretty good running backs right from the get-go really puts me at ease. And I will say, if you're in a 12-team league, having one of those later picks is so valuable this year, probably from 10 to 12, because it allows you to go running back to back. And these are all essentially guys that are top 10, top 15 type of talent, tier 2 type of running backs. So as opposed to being that 1st or 2nd overall pick where sure, you get Christian McCaffrey, you get Saquon Barkley, but who are you choosing afterwards, especially if there's a big run on that position? You don't want to reach. You want to go ahead and go best player available. And speaking of best player available, let's go ahead and see how that is playing out for us, because we've still got 7 picks until our next selection, but there's a couple names: Adam Thielen, an Odell, a Mike Evans, a DJ Moore, who maybe ranked a little bit too low, a Juju Smith-Schuster, an Amari Cooper, Todd Gurley. I want to point out a couple of names here in a Leonard Fournette, who in my opinion is ranked way too low through Yahoo's platform. Again, he's probably going to be going towards the end of the 3rd round, but per these rankings, he's going to be going at the end of the 4th round, and that's almost a round difference to me. That's way too much. So I just did want to quickly point that out. There's no way I would have Mark Ingram above him. To me, that's ludicrous. Basically there, you've already got Lamar Jackson, who's going to take away a lot of opportunities. You've got J.K. Dobbins. So for all those reasons, I'm staying away from Mark Ingram. He's not going to have the same touchdown success that he had last season. So again, I'm passing on those guys. Mike Evans just went off the board, as did Amari Cooper. Unfortunate, they were both guys that I was considering. But here potentially, and obviously DJ Moore also goes off the board. I was going to say I'd be so excited if we could go ahead and land DJ Moore and Calvin Ridley. That's a combination that I would be very excited to go ahead and kick this thing off with. But look, what we could go ahead and essentially do at this point in time is, like I said, we could go running back. But I feel pretty good about the guys that we have in Mixon and Eckler. And these rounds from 3 to probably 6, that's the gold mine for getting your next group of wide receivers that can really have wide receiver 1 upside. So I'm going to go with one of those guys in Calvin Ridley that I'm very excited about. And now the question is, what wide receiver do we want to go with next? I'm sticking to that position. Odell potentially, an A.J. Brown, a Terry McLaurin. I like a Courtland Sutton, but here I really like a Robert Woods, and I know he probably won't get back to me. People were very high on him, so I'm going to go ahead and maybe this is considered a reach, but getting Robert Woods right now, I know he probably wouldn't be available to me in, 20 plus more selections. So I'm just going to go ahead and secure him here. To me, he has really nice upside. Him and Cooper Kupp almost, practically on the same level. So getting Ridley and Robert Woods is something that I feel pretty good about here. And our first 4 picks, I'm very excited about how that has played out, actually. And let's also take a look at these next selections afterwards because it's speeding up a little bit. You see Odell Beckham, that next best available wide receiver that was on the board, DJ Shark, A.J. Brown. I know A.J. Brown is a hot name heading into the season after his rookie performance, but in PPR formats, I'm a little bit more likely to go ahead and pass on A.J. Brown. How much do you believe in Ryan Tannehill and his ability to go ahead and really keep that offense at the same efficiency? I don't have all the utmost confidence, so for that reason, I'm probably staying away from A.J. Brown more so than other people. Devontae Parker, a little bit surprised to see him at this point in the 4th round, a little bit early for him considering some of the other names that are still there, primarily a Tyler Lockett, a Courtland Sutton, a Keenan Allen is someone that I think people are sleeping on a lot, especially now with the injury to Mike Williams. Keenan Allen in PPR formats was being overlooked big time. I had said from a couple months back that Keenan Allen is obviously in a worse off situation with Phillip Rivers gone. But like we said, there's a point at every single draft for every single player where the value is too good to pass up. And Keenan Allen was finding himself in that situation more so than we expected. Now, if we can go ahead and grab him in the 5th round, in the 6th round, I don't think that would be all that bad. We'll see what happens there. I'm looking at some other running backs that we could potentially land, and let's go ahead and filter it by that position. So you see Mark Ingram, David Montgomery. David Montgomery is someone that I was very excited about at the running back position, in that 5th, 6th round, and probably someone that I would have gone ahead and absolutely taken. But now with the injury situation this week and him sustaining that groin injury, probably out between 2 to 4 weeks, it goes ahead and just really yields a situation where you're a little bit nervous with Montgomery. How much do you trust it? And do you really want to take a chance on him at his current ADP? I think right now, probably before he was a 5th, 6th round selection, now probably at least a round lower. So am I going to take that chance when a David Johnson could potentially still be there? Probably not. I'd probably go David Johnson. So that's what I'm probably looking at right now. And let's again look at these draft results. So after that Devontae Parker selection, Todd Gurley, I think pretty good value. Mark Andrews, Melvin Gordon, Tyler Lockett, Leonard Fournette, great value on Leonard Fournette towards the end of the 4th round. Then Terry McLaurin, Le'Veon Bell, DK Metcalf, Mark Ingram goes, Russell Wilson, Keenan Allen, there we go, Zach Ertz, Dak Prescott. So a little bit of a run on quarterbacks here. Raheem Mostert goes. So yeah, the running backs are starting to go off the board, that next tier of guys, probably those mid-level RB2s. But I do think for what it's worth in a PPR format, David Johnson has got some really nice upside. So right now, if I could land a David Johnson and a Courtland Sutton, we'll see if we jinx ourselves, and we did, at least with Courtland Sutton we did. I was going to say that I'd be very happy with that combination, but right now, if we can get one of those 2 guys with David Johnson, that'd be pretty great. Kareem Hunt was also someone that I was potentially considering. Obviously, that won't be the case here, and of course, David Johnson also goes off the board. So that is sensational for us. And we might have to go ahead and go with a David Montgomery at this point in time. I'd like to get a 3rd running back. And, I'm looking at the wide receivers here. I know I'm going to go with a T.Y. Hilton. I'd like to go ahead and add him to the team. I think he's a good flex option. We could go tight end here. And there's some guys that I like, a Darren Waller and Evan Ingram. But I'd rather address the other skill positions, wide receiver and running back. And right now, I'm going to go ahead and take David Montgomery. I know that this is, a risky pick, definitely with the injury situation. But at this point in time, he's a bench stash for me, so I don't have to necessarily play him right at the beginning. And we can wait on him once he's fully healthy and then insert him into our starting lineup. So at least from that perspective, it gives me a little bit of comfort, because after this, what are you getting from these other running backs? DeAndre Swift, a little bit hurt right now. He's in competition with Kerryon Johnson, Ronald Jones. I mean, the hype is there, but is it really going to translate into production? We haven't seen it before. Cam Akers, potentially, but behind that offensive line for the Rams, that's concerning. Devin Singletary, again, he's getting a lot of competition from Zach Moss. And then afterwards, there's a really big drop-off of Jordan Howard, Breida, J.K. Dobbins. Marlon Mack is someone that I would go with. Antonio Gibson, potentially, but more so in a full-point PPR format. So I think for me, that was the logic in selecting David Montgomery at that point in time. Marlon Mack just goes off the board, so that's nice to see here. We're not the only ones that see the value in Marlon Mack. But after our selection of David Montgomery, let's go ahead and check this out. You see Kyler Murray, you see Deshaun Watson, Marquise Brown. A lot of people were excited about Marquise Brown and him taking that next step in 2020. But again, in a PPR format, I'm a little bit more hesitant. He's got some injuries, so is this still a little bit too early to go ahead and take a chance on him? Marlon Mack, I like that. Rob Gronkowski, way too early for Rob Gronkowski. There's a trio of tight ends there, and honestly, Gronk might be the third best one behind Brait and O.J. Howard. Yes, he's got the connection with Tom Brady, but there's so many mouths to feed. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are at the top of that pecking order. So for that reason, I am passing on Gronk as a whole this year. Now, you see afterwards, Ronald Jones, again, someone we pointed out, a lot of upside. He's a potential guy that can be a steal, but how confident are you in that? You see Michael Gallup afterwards, decent value pick there. Cam Akers, Evan Ingram. So Evan Ingram is a tight end that we had mentioned that we could potentially go ahead and land. Unfortunate, because I think this means that we probably won't be able to select a Darren Waller. If I had to go ahead and guess, I think there's going to be a run at that position here in this 7th round, but we'll go ahead and see. Stephon Diggs ends the 6th round, then DeAndre Swift, Tyler Boyd. Let's go ahead and look at some of these next best available players. And Jarvis Landry is someone that's intriguing, but his situation is worth monitoring in terms of injury. What's the situation there going to be? How is it going to progress? Will Fuller, you're either a Will Fuller or a Brendan Cooks believer this year. I feel like those are the two camps when it comes to fantasy football in 2020. Me personally, I am Team Cooks, so I think he's a good value towards the end of that, 7-8 turn. But we've got decent wide receiver depth. We can go ahead and add potentially a Fuller or a Cooks, like I mentioned. I really like a Julian Edelman. He's being criminally underrated here in a lot of different platforms. Cam Newton is going to be the guy. Julian Edelman should be selected in the 5th, 6th round, especially if it's a full point PPR format. So that's why I'm probably going to make him one of our next selections. I feel pretty strongly about him. So I think that's going to definitely be one of those picks. And again, looking at our board, I am hoping we've got 2 picks until our turn. Let's see what the chances are of these 2 teams going with a tight end. Now, here, team 10 probably won't go tight end as they have Travis Kelce. So we've only got team 11 to worry about. And I'm just quickly looking at some of these teams here to compare what we have with some of them. And I like how we stack up. We got that combination of 2 great running backs. The only other team that can really say that here is right here. Then they've got some interesting wide receivers. Actually, I do like their wide receivers and where they landed them. Amari Cooper, A.J. Brown, Courtland Sutton. So that's a nice combination. But I also really like Ridley Woods, T.Y. Hilton. I like David Montgomery, getting him as a depth pick. So AJ Green just goes off the board, and that means we're going to go ahead and be able to select the guy that we were hoping would be there for us to begin with. That is Darren Waller. Welcome to the team. That is a home run selection at this point in time. And then the next player I told you guys that I would be targeting is a Julian Edelman. So come on down, Julian Edelman, another great bench pick. And, you know, we could have gone quarterback, yes, but I prefer to load up on the skill position players. I'm all right having my quarterback be a Aaron Rodgers, you know, or a Matthew Stafford. Let's see how many of these other teams have quarterbacks at this point in time. So, you know, team 1 has one, team 2 does, team 3, team 4, team 5, team 6, team 7, team 8. Team 9 does not, but team 10 and team 11 do. So we'll definitely land one of our quarterbacks. And that's the point in time during a snake draft where you can really use the draft board to your advantage to see what positions have been selected by what teams, and especially with quarterback and tight end being one of those positions where you don't draft backups this early on if you have, you know, that position covered to begin with. You know you're going to be able to wait and sit on that position if there's a quarterback in a tight end that you like that's, you know, coming up, but potentially might be only the, you know, within the next 10 selections. So see, Matthew Stafford here goes off the board, and I think we can, that pretty much guarantees that we can get a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers. So that I'm really excited about that. And that means we're going to get good value there. We don't have to reach on quarterback. I should say we didn't have to reach on quarterback earlier on. I really like Brady. I like Rodgers. Ben Roethlisberger ain't bad either. Daniel Jones is someone that people are sleeping on. So we'll probably make 2 more selections here and then call it a day. Let's go ahead and expand this, because to me, kickers, defenses, I don't think it's all that valuable to go ahead and select one in these mock drafts. Those are going to be positions that you stream off of waivers the majority of the year, especially with defenses. There's a reason that they're one of the top priorities every single week off of waivers. You look at matchups. That's the name of the game when it comes to defenses. They change so much year to year. So for that reason, not all that much importance in selecting a defense in these mock drafts. So we'll go quarterback, and then we're going to go ahead and go with a bench player and then wrap this thing up. And at this point in time, a lot of these people have gone on auto pick. That's the only annoying thing at this point in time with these mock drafts, that once you get to, you know, close to these double-digit rounds, that most people already have the core of their rosters constructed. So it goes into auto pick, and you're going to start to see kickers and defenses go off the board. So it's going to become an unrealistic situation where you can get some of these high talent players. But for what it's worth, you know, us getting Tom Brady right now is definitely realistic, because like I pointed out before, 11 other teams already have the quarterback position taken care of. This is not a super flex league. It's not a 2-quarterback league, so we don't have to worry about there being a run on quarterbacks. We can wait, and we can go ahead and get a guy like a Tom Brady the way that the rankings worked out here on Yahoo. And I'm looking at some other names. You know, Will Fuller is still there. That means that probably a Brennan Cooks is also still there. Let's go ahead and double check. But he could very well be our next selection. Yeah, he's my next best ranked wide receiver, followed by Jamison Crowder. So, you know, those are 2 potential options, but I do want to go ahead and add a quarterback. But let's go ahead and kind of grade this team. So we started off back-to-back running backs, and like I mentioned, having an end of the first round selection between 10 and 12 really puts you in an advantageous situation, especially in 12-team leagues, you know, bigger sized drafts, because you still are able to go ahead and get those back-to-back running backs, those high-end tier RB1s. That's exactly what we did with Joe Mixon and Eckler. Then we went ahead and addressed the wide receiver position with Ridley and Woods. And unfortunately, when you pick at the turn, it puts you in a situation where you're going to have to reach a little bit more so than you would like, because you're waiting 20 plus picks. And, you know, if there's a guy that's about, you know, somewhere in between, that he's probably going to go within the next 10 or 15 picks, you got to assume that he won't be there for you unless there's a big drop. So that's why we went with Ridley and Woods. But either way, we're very high on those guys. Afterwards, getting someone like a T.Y. Hilton, getting some depth with Montgomery, and then getting our tight end in Waller, someone that I'm I think was probably our best value pick in this entire draft, Julian Edelman as well. So we could potentially look at running back to see who's available as a potential fourth running back to the team. I could actually go a James White here as that pass catcher on New England, but there's so many running backs there that it kind of goes ahead and gives you cause for pause. So I'll just go ahead and stick to our original plan, go with adding depth, adding a Tom Brady, and then going ahead and adding a probably Brendan Cooks. So getting pretty close to wrapping this thing up. As far as how I would go ahead and, grade this team, I'd probably go ahead and give it probably a B to a B plus. Eckler would be a lot higher on my board if this was full point PPR scoring. So I'm going to, dock myself there a little bit. Montgomery, you could argue, did we reach on him? Considering the injury situation, but I felt like we needed to get a third running back, and we saw our choices at that point in time kind of be taken away from us, so that's why we went with it there. But let's go ahead, and it's our turn to draft, so let's add Tom Brady. I love the value with Brady, and I'll get another value pick here at the wide receiver position if he's still there, and Brendan Cooks, he still is. So I think we did a pretty good job of getting depth at wide receiver. So I really like the way that worked out, considering we went back-to-back running backs to kick this thing off. Wide receiver is a strong point for this team. Running back, also happy with it. We got 2 top-tier running backs. I love our tight end situation. And overall, again, I think B to B plus is a very fair grade to this team. But as always, let me know your guys' thoughts along with your questions now with crunch time approaching for the fantasy football season. Hit us up in the comments and we'll do our best to answer all those questions. And again, a final reminder, go ahead and take advantage of the limited time offer for the 2020 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide giveaway. All that information is in the description. And if you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.